The Tim Heale Thirsty Thursday live stream from 7 until 9 weekly. Here's your host, Tim Heale.
Hey! Hopefully, check. Mic is on. The mic is live. So, good grief, I've done it. Oh, I'm so pleased that I got that right tonight. 3 weeks in the trot. It wouldn't have been funny. It wouldn't have been clever. And I would have felt a right muppet. But hey, there we go. I'm not a muppet tonight. So, welcome to 30 Thursday live stream, direct from the Heale Manor. Here we are. Right, little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We've got some terrific guests on tonight. So, just a bit of housekeeping. Just coming up with a new, this is new, for next week. We're going to do a men's health and suicide special. I'm hoping to get a couple of guests on from an organisation that has men. It's okay to talk. So that's next week. More about that during next week. As we're leading up to it, I'll tell you all about it once I've got the guests squared away. The following week, the 1st of September, we are obviously going to be talking about the regimental rugby, but we're also going to do, I'm trying to get a couple of rugby players in from the Premiership to talk about the start of the season, which should be quite good. The following week, yes, hopefully, still waiting for a confirmation, but it's looking good for the Archaeology special. So that's coming the following week. Then the following 2 weeks, the 15th and the 22nd, they're going to be pre-record ones, and they're going to be specials. It's a little project I've got working at the moment, but what I'll do is nearer the time I'll let you know what they are about. But it's starting to come together. So they're going to be a couple of pre-records. Hopefully, if I'm right, if it goes out as a premiere, you should be able to comment during it. And I'm not sure whether it's a work in progress, but I'll let you know all about that as it goes on. And then at the end of September is obviously the Veterans Mental Health Special, and we're going to focus in on the alarming suicide rates that veterans are suffering at the moment. Roughly, guys under the age of about 45, there's one every 2 hours. So during this show tonight, there will be one suicide, and that's tragic. So we need to have that conversation and open that up and make it normal and let these poor guys know that they're not alone. So that's going to be one of the subjects that we'll be covering fairly much in depth in the coming months. And then I'm going to be cheeky. This is a cheeky way. I'm just going to leave that scrolling there for a little while. You don't have to. It's not compulsory. But if you can subscribe to the channel, that helps a lot. Put a comment in, and obviously watch a bit of the show. And the like button, it doesn't hurt at all to click that little old like button. And by clicking that little old like button, just let us know that you're there. Anyway, I've rambled on far too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my first guest. So this is an old pal of mine. We've been doing a little bit of work together for a little while. And we're going to look at doing a little bit more work together on this mental health stuff. So, without too much further ado, here is my old mucker, James. Well, welcome, James. Have you got your mic switched on?
Yes, I got it on. Thank you. I'm here.
I got it right this year. I got it right. I'm so pleased that I got it right this week. I could have been a right little muppet if I'd have got it wrong.
And
anyway,
you got your haircut right.
Yes. So, James, if you just want to give us a quick brief on whom you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure, I'd love to. I hail from Vancouver, Canada, right up against the Canadian-US border, but I do live in Canada, so I'm a Canadian. There you go. Yeah,
Got a Canadian
absolutely.
canoe going here.
And I've been married to the same woman for 22 years, been with her for 27, have two teenage boys, and am involved in business and investments. Primarily, though, what I do, my active piece in life, what I participate with 100% of the time, all my available time goes towards helping humans strategically work through life. And so utilizing what's in front of them instead of trying to eliminate it. So some people would say I'm a coach. That term kind of makes me cringe. I'm a strategist, and people find me, let's say it like this. They find me when what has once worked just no longer works. And so that's kind of what I do. I'm passionate about it. I love what I do, and I wouldn't do anything different. I didn't come to the industry for the money. I could do way better in the business world. I came here for a passion, for a purpose, and I will say honestly, it has served so many of my needs. And let's put it like this: I've created a life that I no longer need to take a vacation from it. So that was one of my first steps, and I've been doing this now for the last 10 years and absolutely love it. And so I consider it an honor, and thank you, Tim, for having me here. And I'll do the best that I can to serve and support whoever calls in.
It's an absolute pleasure. Talking about people calling in. Hey, an old mucker of mine, Joppy Matty. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the show. Thanks for putting a comment in. All I would like you to do now is just click the old like button. That helps a lot. And subscribe to the channel, don't forget. So, all the way from Fiji. So, we are going worldwide. And here's a quick question. This is an interesting one. Evening, Nick. Yeah. Should we bring back the death penalty in the UK? I guess that's in light of what happened, I think it was a day or so ago. I don't know whether you heard about it in Canada, but there was a poor old bloke of 86 in his wheelchair, and some arse has gone and stabbed him to death about 14 times or something like that, I think. Horrendous. I did hear today that I think they may have captured this bloke. Time will tell on that. But, yeah. What are your thoughts on the death penalty?
Oh boy, that's a great question. That's a loaded one, and so let's first say it like this. A loaded gun. Sorry, I'd be careful. I don't point it at myself.
Nick.
Yeah, thanks for starting off. Hey, so I have my own opinion, not because I've experience with seeing a loved one being stabbed 14 times. Like, come on, like that's honestly. That's horrific, and of course our hearts can't help but go out to these people. The thing that comes to heart for me, to the surface of my life, is I look at some of these things and say, well, firstly, to feel the feeling that comes up, I think is a healthy one. But when I utilize emotion just primes me to take proper action towards the next thing. And so I don't think it helps a human, at least not through my experience, to stay stuck in an emotion. I think it's to feel the emotion and to process it and then let it prime you to take another proper action. And so I'll just wrap it up with this. I think the answer for me would be like this. I think we can go either way. We can either say, let's get back at this individual, let's let him suffer consequence, and that's one way to experience it. And that would be redemptive violence. The other way of looking at it is through restorative justice. So redemptive violence just does back what he did to us, and we say he's an animal, which he's not, but he's done some very animalistic behavior. True. So I guess depending how you look at it, redemptive violence, restorative justice, and depending on what side of the fence you fall on. And for me, I'll just make one final comment on this, and that is, they say that humans desire peace beyond forgiveness. So I always want to challenge myself and listeners, and I don't want to be insensitive to the situation or anybody else. But I think if we want peace, we have to think bigger picture. And so that's my comment.
Well, let's see what somebody else has got to say about it. Right, let's bring up the next guest. This guest I've been working with for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to be doing a little bit of work together in a not too distant future as well. So if you'd like to welcome my old mate Keith. Evening, Keith.
Good evening, Tim. Good evening, James.
How you doing, Keith? If you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, my name's Keith. Sorry, Tim. Yeah, my name's Keith. I'm from the UK, from a little fishing port called Grimsby. And I've been, I had my own video filming business from 1990, doing weddings, commercial jobs, and etc. I've been retired now for 15 years. I retired at 58. I'm now 72. So video or YouTube is a hobby now. I've got over 3,000 subscribers, and I enjoy coming on live streams, and I'm trying to get back into doing live streams. But I've got a partner that's got vascular dementia that takes up a lot of my time during the day. And so I haven't put anything up to my channel for about 3 or 4 months, but hopefully I will get back round to doing some filming and live streams.
Brilliant. Well, that's Keith. So, Keith, what's your, let's just carry on that little question. What's your thoughts on the death penalty in the UK?
Well, to answer Nick West's question is similar to James. If he's got a mental illness, and then no, I don't agree with the death penalty. But if he did it intentionally and not manslaughter, I'm a great believer in the death penalty in whichever country, because if you take a life intentionally, whether that is driving a car under being drunk or through alcohol, and you kill somebody, that's intentional, because you've got in your car knowing that you've got a drug problem or you've got an alcohol problem. So even people go out and commit murder, these gangs, if you're carrying a knife, that's intentional, because you've got the intention of using it. And why should taxpayers keep people all their life in prison where they are looked after, 3 square meals a day, they get to watch TV, the only thing that they lose is the freedom? And because I'm a Christian, I believe in a life for a life. It's like if somebody steals from you, instead of being put in prison, I think they should be made to work for that person to pay back whatever they've stolen. But a lot of crime now is drug related. So you've got that. You've got mental issues. That there's a lot of people with mental issues. I know quite a few people that have committed suicide, and people just don't talk, or should I say, people do not listen, because there's always something there that you can pick up that they've got these intentions. So I hope that answers Nick's question.
Well, thanks for that. So, without too much further ado, should we bring another guest in? Another victim? So, yeah. Why, Nick, why did you ask such a difficult question first up?
Well,
anyway.
Sorry, Tim. I think it's a good question. I mean, it's debatable. People have their own different opinions, like James is different to mine. But it's nice to discuss topics like that.
Absolutely.
Well, and
anyway,
I think, and I think
go on, James.
Point, yeah. So I think to the point even about being open to hearing what people have to say, I think to create spaces. So thanks, Tim, for doing this, creating spaces like this. So you could have chosen not to bring that question forward, but you did. And I think it's like a brilliant display of what you're all about. And that's, you are here to have honest, real conversations, about heavy things, but then we process it in such a way that each of us can bite into it and we can feel something about it. And, this individual, if he stabs someone, he's got some feels. And I think we want those feels to be heard, because if not, we recreate these things. So, I mean, again, there's Keith, there's me. And so difference, though similar, But I think if we can just find connection through similarity, we're in trouble. We must find connection through difference. And if it's only just preference of what I want, we are in deep trouble.
Yeah, agreed on that, James.
Anyway, let's bring in our next guest. So without too much further ado, here comes Stu. How you doing, Stu?
Good evening, Tim. Good evening, James. Good evening, Keith.
Evening, Stu.
Hi.
So, straight into the deep end, Stu.
I've got to answer the same question.
Yeah, what's your take on that question?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It really is. I think I probably err on the side of I don't want the death penalty in place. I know there's some very nasty people out there that do some very nasty things, but I think if justice has to resort to killing them, you're not far removed from them, are you? It's barbaric, isn't it? It's absolutely barbaric. So why would you do it? Is my gut feel. I'm really lucky to have never had to be involved in anything to do with murder or that level of crime. Perhaps if I was, I'll change my mind. But yeah, the way things are at the moment, I think it's atrocious, and I wouldn't really go for it.
Okay. I don't know, what's my take on it? Yeah, hang on my.
I knew that was coming, Tim.
Yeah, I did as well. Short and sweet, Tim.
Even out, or maybe the odd public flogging. That sorts them out.
Yeah.
Never did us any harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's difficult, really challenging.
Yeah.
What level that you put it, where you draw that line, whether you're gonna take a life for a life, or you're gonna incarcerate them for the rest of their lives at the cost of the taxpayer. I mean, look how much it costs to incarcerate a murderer for 30, 40 years.
Yeah. But to take Keith's point, if they're mentally deranged, then there's an argument for not giving them the death penalty. And you've got to ask yourself, if somebody goes out and deliberately murders, a child or someone, they're probably not of sound mind to do that, are they? I mean, so they probably are mentally deranged.
Yeah, I agree on that, Stu. Yeah.
Perhaps we should bring in Kate. Remember Kate, the forensic psychologist? I mean, she's actually dealt with these type of murderers. She actually dealt with the actual real life Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, I mean, she's fantastic. Really, really interesting story she's got. So, yeah, I wonder what her take would be on it. Maybe we'll get her back in and find out.
Yes, that's
anyway.
Incredible. That'd be incredible. It's something that I feel happening, and so I love this conversation. I think it's the tension between, do I want to get back and get equal, or do I want to help the situation? And I think so I'm a bit on Stu's side. I want to assist of benefit. I don't attach a dollar sign to a human. For me, so getting back to, do I want to continue kicking the can down the road? Meaning, if somebody does violence to me, to Stu's point, do I make it any better by doing something back? So redemptive violence is just doing back to the very thing that you didn't like. And so my dad was a pastor of a mega church. He's a Christian pastor. So an eye for an eye. I kind of understand this whole play. The only thing is, the way I also understand, and I'm an amateur on the Bible, but the way that I understand, and I'm still a believer there, but I'm now more inclusive, not exclusive the way they were. The only thing that if I would say about the Bible, an eye for an eye and tooth for tooth, and again, Keith, I totally respect your opinion. It's fantastic. I mean, this is what you think is great. The only thing that I guess the tension that I feel within that is the whole Bible and the stories of it. they show how there's this presence. You can call it God, Jesus, whatever, but kept wrapping itself or himself, however you want to look at it, around situations in a new way. So he would say, you've heard it said, so like the 10 Commandments, don't kill your brother, but I say unto you, go love your brother. So he was always about evolving the story forward, complicated issues. So I don't know, like an eye for an eye, I understand, but all I can say is whenever I've tried to get back at somebody, like you did this to me and I do it back to you, it's never ended well.
Yeah.
But that's just my experience, sorry.
Anyway, right.
Sorry, Tim. Go on.
Let's draw a line under that one. I think we've done that one to death.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to bring in a couple of beautiful young ladies and their question. So I'll give you the idea. There's their question, and here are the young ladies in question. There you go, girls. You're in.
Hi, Catherine.
Let's start this conversation off. Did you like the way I did that? Are you muted?
Are we? No.
You were muted. You did that on purpose. Welcome, ladies. So, I won't get you to ask the answer the last question. Let's have a look at your question, shall we? Should cyclists be made to have licence plates and insurance?
I think they should.
Yep.
I
I think they should be made to do a test as well.
Yeah.
So come on, what's your take on it?
So obviously, as a lorry driver, the highway code has recently been changed, and I kind of get it because it's people who can be hurt more by obviously bigger vehicles and stuff. So now pedestrians and cyclists kind of have more rights than anyone else on the road, but they don't pay to be on the roads. And you know, driving in Cambridge and London, there's a really high volume of people driving or riding cycles and stuff like that, and they go through traffic lights, they're cutting down the side of you when you're trying to turn left, and obviously visibility is not that great when you're in a lorry, and they just seem to be that they own the road.
Yeah. Just to finish on that last one. Thanks, Nick. There's the person that asked the question.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thanks for starting the show off, Nick. So, cyclists then. I mean, the government has been pushing cycling for quite a few years now, trying to get more and more people off the cars and onto cycles. Round here, right, okay, where I live, down in Gosport, the council spent thousands and thousands of pounds putting in all these cycle lanes and all the rest of it. Yet these buggers on cycles, it still insist on riding their bikes on the road when they've got a brand new cycle path that they can drive on.
Yeah, but in the highway code, they've now been told that they don't have to use the cycle lanes, that they need to ride in the middle of the road. Why have councils spent millions of pounds on all of these cycle lanes? And like in Cambridge, like there's a roundabout for cyclists around a roundabout, and now they're told not to even use the cycle lanes. It's a waste of money if that's the case.
Yeah, what they should have done is widen the roads.
Yeah.
So, and then they can have a little bit on the side, and then they could ride on the roads. But they've got dedicated big lumps of the side of the road where they could ride their bikes on quite happily. But no, they've got to stick on their lycra and look ridiculous and tear up and down on the road. And swerving out, and it's a nightmare for drivers. And it's even worse if you're driving something like a 44-ton Arctic or a 44-ton 18-metre wagon and drag, and you got these clowns all over the road in front of you. And it's even worse if you're going through London. I mean, I used to be a lorry driver and going in London, and it is a bit of a headache. They're cutting in and out. They ignore traffic lights. So, yeah, they should have insurance. They should take a test, and they should have licence plates. There you go. That's my tuppence worth.
Just going off this bit, those should people on these mobility scooters, because Stephen and I were out at a supermarket, and an elderly man on a mobility scooter ran over the small girl who was in front of him, and she actually went underneath it but missed the wheels, which was lucky because her parents were a bit hysterical. And the lady I worked with, her and her husband went to Southend, and there's a wall that runs along the seafront, and it sort of goes up at an angle and then along. And she said he actually drove it so he caught his back wheels on it, and it tipped him over, and he had to be rescued by passers-by. So when we were talking about it, you know, I said, "Oh my God, don't you have to do a test or something before you drive them?" She went, "Oh no, he'd never pass a test if he had to do it." So who are these people driving around on these blinking scooters all over the pass that go so quickly, when no one even checks whether they're safe to do it? Our neighbour was as blind as a bat. He had glasses that were about 2 inches thick, and he used to drive it up the road, but he always missed a turning for the shops because he couldn't see it. That's true, isn't it?
Crazy. We've got some comments coming in here. Let's have a look at the comments. Yeah, as we drivers use the cycle lanes. Yeah, that's a fair one. If you've got all cyclists on the road, use their cycle path. Not quite sure you get a sort of 44-ton wagon and drag down there somehow. As a cyclist, I think we should have plates and insurance. Yeah, fair one.
Question I've got is, does any other
Christine's
country do that? Does any other country doing it, or would we be the first?
I think we'd be the first.
I think you'll find that Holland was the first. I'm almost sure I've seen cycles with number plates on the back in Holland and Belgium. I'm sure they've got, there's a white plate on the back of the mudguard. I'm sure they've got it over there.
Right.
But I mean, they are geared up for it. I mean, everywhere is cycle friendly over there.
Yeah.
Here in Canada, we don't have license plates, but if the policeman sees you doing something on a bicycle that you're not supposed to be doing, he will ask for your ID, and your ID will reveal your driver license, and then you'll get marks against your driving record. So it's not that the bike has a license plate that you have to have it, but we have special bike lanes here in Vancouver because a lot of bicycles are around. For me, it all correlates to this. I think a lot of people want freedoms, but I think for me, at least as a North American, I rest in freedoms were created because of rights and responsibilities. And so rights is what we all want, but we don't want to be responsible, apparently. You can't have freedom unless you're responsible. So you got to do this. So you got to do so. To Jason's point, like, hey, listen, if they want this, then shouldn't they give us the same freedom? So there you go. I would agree with Jason's comment to some degree. Like, we have to be responsible. So however we do it, we have to figure out a way.
There's an interesting take on it. If cyclists damage a car, how can you get retribution?
Well, there again, Tim, it's a case of, I believe that if somebody damages your property or bagels you, they should be made to pay it back. If they haven't got the money, they should work for you, you know. And I've always believed that. And then it saves putting people in prison, because it could help them to change their ways. So I don't know what you think to that, but I'm a great believer in that. Instead of punishing them, make them pay things back. Make them, I forget the word, for the damage that they've done to that person. Yeah.
Well, Christine Meekins is to give us a smiley. Thanks, Christine. How about somebody else giving some likes and Hello, what's happened there?
It's Mum kicking her leg. She knocked the tripod over.
Oh, what's she like? Right, let's put the cycles to bed. Here's another really interesting. Nick is on form tonight.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. What about this question? Is there such a thing as reincarnation? What would you come back as and why? Whoa. I'll go first on that one. I know that answer. I would come back as a cat. I would come back as a pussycat. And I think the reason I come back is because a cat has a wonderful life. In fact, they have 9 wonderful lives. And I'm pretty much a cat myself. I don't know how many good lines I've got left, but I've certainly used up a few. So I did the old Harry Potter. And my Patronus is a Manx cat. I cheated and did it 4 times because I ended up as a Slytherin 4 times. But the interesting part, because I answered the questions different each time, thinking I'll cash it out. But the interesting part was, I still ended up with a Manx cat as my Patronus. Interesting. So, who's next? Put your hands up. Who wants to be reincarnated next?
Well, I can answer your story to a degree. Many years ago, I was working for a company. The managing director came sidling up to me, and he whispered in my ear. He said, "Stuart," he said, "Are you a lion that is cunning and fast and athletic, and has to, kill to survive, or are you a gazelle that has to be fleet of foot and nimble and fast and have awareness so it can survive? Which one are you, Stuart?" And I sort of thought about it for a bit, and I said, "I think I'm a vulture, and I just wait for the lion to kill the antelope, and then I sort of swoop in and pick up the scraps." So I think I'm a vulture.
Brilliant. Who's next? Go on, you always got to be reincarnated. Go on then, James.
I was going to say I'd like to be a dog because I love my dog. We have a little multi-poo, and the dog just seems free. And to some degree, it's just, I don't know if the dog comes to give me love or receive love. Perhaps the dog is love. I have no idea. The only reason I wouldn't want to be a dog, though, is the dog has to smell other dogs' urine to see where they are. I don't want to be doing this. So I wouldn't be a dog.
I think you're looking at this too deeply.
Sorry, and that's how I do most of my thinking. Sorry, I'll do different. But here's the thing. I would love to come back as a version of a lion and a lamb put together. So I just call it a liam. A liam. And here's why. You get to be fierce and loving at the same time. So you bring it together, and it's a beautiful combination. I don't have to do any willpower. I just get to be both firm and soft at the same time. There you go.
Terrific.
That is good.
Who's next then? There you go. Come on in. An eagle?
I've had many dreams where I am an eagle, like just flying across the mountains and looking down on things. You get to travel the world.
You guys are all working too hard. I think I'll be a sloth.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Excellent.
You're far too ambitious.
So come on, Keith, you'll go.
Oh, well, that's an easy one for me. I'd come back as an orca. You know,
an orca?
I'm a top predator in the seas. You know, no one would come after me. I'd be going after them. So I think I'd have a long life, and that's the main thing about that. Or the second thing, I'd like to come back as a tree, because some trees live for thousands of years, but then you don't know what they suffer, do you? But no, an orca would be my choice.
See what next for here.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh, that is a good one, that one.
Have you seen what James has put? Oh dear.
Oh, see who this is. I've just got to go up for a minute. I'll mute.
All right, I'll drop you down.
Be a cat first.
Hey, Tim, funny story. Can I share a story?
You certainly can.
When we moved to Vancouver 6 years ago, we used to live in the central Canada, and we moved to the west coast. And our boys at the time were, I think, all of 11 and 8. So we drive down to Seattle. It's just across into the United States. So Seattle, and we're there. We're just looking for some food, and we find this little stand where you have corn on the cob. So butter on the cob and salt on the cob. And we're all going for a walk as a family. And all of a sudden we hear these bells, and we look, and up over the hill is coming this whole group of bicyclists. And we're realizing they're not wearing any clothes. And so there's men and women, they're standing up and they're pedaling, and and apparently it's like Save the Earth Day or something. And on the back, they have painted on the back of their back, so with their butts and everything, it says, less gas, more fun. And of course, my boys are looking, going, what is this? And we were just laughing anyway.
Terrific.
We have one of those that comes through Chelmsford. Naked cycle riding.
Oh, that's outrageous, isn't it? Anyway,
right. Driving on the roads not knowing what day it is. You'd be like, why are there loads of naked cyclists?
Right, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to join in, you can ring the show on that number. And we've got the technology to be able to take in a call on the show. Did you know? We have technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. but we can take in a phone call. So if you want to phone in a question, please do. There's a couple of people that click the like buttons. So we've got Catherine, Christine Meekums has given us a smiley, and Nick and James have clicked the like button. So there must be more people out there wanting to click that like button and hit the subscribe button to us. Right, so what else we got? Right, I'm just going to do a couple of seconds of the old housekeeping. So just a quick recap for people out there. We've got coming up Men's Health and Suicide special next week. That's going to be a fascinating show. We're going to open up that conversation. As you've already seen this evening, we're not afraid to tackle difficult subjects. The following week, on the 1st of September, we've got a rugby special. We're going to talk about the Premiership is kicking off beginning of September. Also, it's the first day of Hogwarts. On the 8th, we've got the old archaeological special. The 15th and the 22nd is going to be some pre-recorded live stream specials, or pre-recorded specials. Yeah, and when they come out, you'll see why they've been pre-recorded. Then at the end of September, we've got the Veterans Mental Health Special on the 29th of September. So be sure to put those in your calendar. It's dead easy. There's rubbish on the telly on a Thursday evening anyway, so you might as well come and join us on the show. And if you're feeling particularly generous and got a couple of bod, you can buy me a coffee. So, what we got here? Right, Keith's back in the room. Boom, you're back.
Yeah, great.
So that's the housekeeping done. Also, please click that like button. Let us know you're out there. Stick a question in the old question box. Oh, we've got another question coming. I've just seen it. What's going on out there? Phone's going off somewhere. It's not mine. I've lost my track. Come back. Yes. Subscribe to the channel. All helps the cause, and spread the word. I mean, if you've got nothing, there is nothing on the telly on a Thursday evening, so you might as well come and join in the show. So, next question. Exam results after COVID and the distribution to schools. Who wants to pick up on that one? Who put the question in? Oh, yeah, somebody's on their phone. Look, you put the question in. Oh, look, she's looking for the answer now.
No,
Caught ya.
it said distribution and I meant disruption.
Well, at least I read it right.
Where they're saying that they should have gone easier on the children this year because of obviously last year and the COVID and the lockdown and everything. And I get what they're saying, but if you do that, surely that lowers what everybody else has done in previous years. It's not fair. You have to judge everybody by the same, don't you?
Yeah. For me, it's been interesting watching over the last, particularly the last 5 or 10 years, when they've been announcing the school A-level results and the GCSE results, and they've all been doing better than the previous years and stuff like that. And then you've come to the COVID year, and they've all had predicted grades, or they haven't had to sit an exam, but the teachers have predicted what they'd like to get or whatever, and now they've actually had to sit an exam. It's proved that they haven't done so well because they haven't been schooled properly. They haven't been in school. They haven't had that proper education. And when they have been in school, they've been sort of mothers up. So you go and see what and that affects them. Imagine going into a classroom and everybody's got a mask on. You can't see face. You can't see facial movements. You can't, and particularly for the young kids. I mean, imagine that being a 5 or 6 year old, or even 4 or 5 year olds, not being able to see somebody's face all day long.
They didn't wear masks and they were in bubbles, so they didn't, because they didn't move outside of their bubble. They were only mixing with their own group, so the youngsters didn't have to do that. But my school, where I work, I was looking online today because obviously I'm not there. They did really well, but when they were talking about this earlier on in the year, they said the reason was they were more focused on their work doing remote learning because they didn't have all the distractions that they had when they were in school. So, you know, they weren't stopping for lots of different things, and there wasn't sports days and choir and PE and all these other things. They literally were just focusing on their exam subjects that they had to focus on. And they've done, it's definitely looked it up today, they've done really well.
81% of grades above A star and B.
So that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, but is that just the one school?
Yeah, that's
I mean, across the piece.
And it is a private school, so have they had better education than public school?
Yeah. So, I mean, across the piece, I think as a sort of benchmark, I think it's been lower this year. The scores have been slightly lower. The expectation has been over-exaggerated by what the exam results have actually come out as, where lots and lots of schools haven't been going in. They've been remote learning. And I think that's possibly been detrimental to many, many children. An awful lot of kids don't have or didn't have the ability to be able to do it from home. They didn't, for not having the internet or not having the computers to do the job or whatever. There's an awful lot that have suffered through that whole period.
Unfortunately, a lot of that is going to be financial. So, you know, it's going to be the poorest families that can't afford the internet and can't afford the laptops and everything that are going to suffer through that.
Oh, hang on, I'm missing comments.
That's a very rich perspective, Catherine. I love that you said that, because I think we have to be so aware that we see things from many sides, the affluent and the non-affluent, because I think what we create has to work everywhere. You know, Stephanie, one of the comments you made was, you know, the exam results. And I think at the end of the day, I think society's really missing out if we get to coddling the brain. Meaning, if we're just going to hand out participation awards, like everybody gets a trophy, I'm not quite sure if that's so beneficial, like not for anyone. And I think it's good to say participation, but this is what I often wonder about. Why are we so afraid of reality? Like if my children come home from school and they get a 72 in their math exam, that's news. Why turn news into bad news? You just get to see what really is there. So now you get to know what you want to do. If not, you're supporting this whole fantasy play. And so, Tim, what you were saying earlier about masks, I actually read people not by the eyes, but the mouth. I read almost 100% of emotion of the human through the mouth. And so the mask was a big detriment. And so when I think about children going to school, and across the board, affluent or non-affluent, I think what we, in my opinion, if we're building into a structure that won't be wobbly and won't be built on toothpicks that can just be knocked down, I think we want to see the reality of things. So personally, I think to measure is great. And to measure and why let that be a problem if the result shows X? That's evidence. That's just what it ends up being. So,
well, for me, I'm a little bit mutton. I mean, I wear hearing aids, and I lip read an awful lot, and I had real trouble through people wearing muzzles trying to hear what they're saying, and it's not me being rude or anything. Even with hearing aids in and got them turned up, I still struggle at hearing, and especially if you're in a noisy environment, that's I just have to switch off and turn them right down. I can't hear anything then, or just a din. So for me, that's quite difficult. So should we move on a little bit? We've got couple of other questions that's popped in here. Let's pop in. Eagles put one in. Hang on. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I think you should take a test after 70, just to make sure that you're still okay. Who's up for this one then?
I agree with that. Seems it was my question. I've always thought that
I didn't like to say.
Yeah, that's all right. People over 70, because I'm over 70, the eyesight goes, your reaction time goes, and because there's a lot more vehicles on the roads nowadays, I've always thought that at 70 you should have a retest to see whether you are capable of driving. Because I mean, I always said to myself that when I reached 70, I was going to pack in driving and use my bus pass and go places on the train. But because of circumstances, I've had to keep the car. But to my mind now, there is no pleasure in driving, and especially when you've got Stephanie, who is a lorry driver. She must come across a lot of older people driving on motorways that are there doing 40 or 50 and could cause accidents. And that they do cause accidents. It's been proven with statistics, with the analytics and everything, that older drivers do cause more accidents than the middle-aged. I also believe that people shouldn't have a driving licence until they're 21. Until they've grown up with it. So that's my opinion anyway.
You know, I kind of disagree with the waiting until you're 70. As a lorry driver, we have to go through a medical. I know. We have to go through a medical and retests every 5 years, and I've noticed a big difference between the break of people being able to drive because of the COVID restrictions and stuff like that. Some of the things that I see daily, including being on your phone and cutting across from the outside lane to a slip road. Like, people are driving really, really dangerously, and the level of driving has got really, really bad.
Yeah, I agree on that, Stephanie.
Yeah.
And even I remember once I was driving through Cambridge, and majority of the roads are 20-mile-an-hour limits. And I had a bus in front of me, and a tipper lorry must have sped past doing about 50 or 60 miles an hour on a 20-mile-an-hour road without being able to see, because he wouldn't have been able to see past my lorry, and he wouldn't have been able to see past the bus. And he just came bombing past us both. And I was like, God, if someone's crossing the road or whatever, that like he's not going to see him coming. Crazy.
It does feel that people should at least be tested, even younger than 70, because I passed my test when I was 17, and the driving standards, the highway code, everything was much different then. It's been updated many times, and yet I'm still driving the way I was taught when I was 17. So maybe there is an argument for doing it more regularly. Like you say, Stephanie, if a lorry driver has to do it every 5 years, why wouldn't just a car driver have to do it, say, every 5 years or every 10 years? It just proves your competence to do it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Keeps you up to date.
I wonder how many people would pass. We all pick up so many bad habits, don't we, as we drive over the years?
Yeah.
To me, it seems like when you make something a standard, and it's not just a standard for a certain cut age, but you do it at intervals, perhaps something like every 10 years or so, that the whole system supports. So the people who are running the programs and who are doing the testing, like, I'm just looking at it, I'm not 70, I'm 46, but the way I would see it here in Canada anyway, if that would happen, I'm just trying to empathize with those people who would be triggered and forced to take a driving test. My concern is, what's the motivation behind doing it? And if the motivation is to get bad drivers off the road versus let's just see where you're at, then of course I can see the hesitancy and the anxiety that these 70-year-old people would feel going, I'm going to be brought in and I'm going to be tested harder than the 16-year-old or a 21-year-old driver who comes in. So I think if you make it more of a standard, something that's a regular thing, I think for me, I would be able to trust a system and a structure a little better if the people who are testing maybe are people. So if I'm going in when I'm 70, for example, or when I'm 50, I get tested by people who are of similar age. So they understand what, I don't know. I just want to make sure it's not that we're just trying to get the bad people off the road, because then I'm going to get all anxious and get all worried and all fearful, because society breeds on this crap, right? So.
Yeah, perhaps it shouldn't be seen as a test, but more of an assessment and a re-education. So, I mean, if you were obliged to have this assessment, like you say, every 10 years or something, then that driving instructor could assess your driving ability and make a few little corrections if he thinks that you're not doing it right, and sign you off. So it's not something you can fail, but it's just a review and a sharpen up. And maybe that guy who's 70 isn't such a risk then, because throughout his driving career he's had little milestones repositioning his skill and ability along the way.
Well, that's good. That's Stu, the way you've said that. Yeah, I agree on that assessment.
Yeah.
We were having this conversation the other day. Stephen's brother came to visit, and we were talking about their dad. Now, he was 84. He drove off the road and he hit a lamppost. So the family said, you know what, he's not fit to drive. So they contacted the DVLA, and he did have his license taken away. But he was really annoyed because he said, well, you've taken away, my freedom. I can't go to visit people. But we thought, yeah, but you're also not safe. He drove off the road into I think it was a bus stop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what would have happened if anybody had been on that bus stop?
Yeah.
And the DVLA said it's up to the individual to notify us. So presumably, if he does a test at 70, he'd already done that, but he was 84. So
Stu, to your point, I want to be respectful, Catherine. I can only imagine, right? You gotta attack and confess. You got to see reason behind it. You know, this is just you're going to kill yourself all of a sudden. You're not helping society. You're not benefiting yourself or other people. You know, when I was 21, and here in Canada, we get your license at 16. I was raised on the farm, and I was taught how to drive farm vehicles. And so I just drove the way that a farm boy would. And so just all over the place. And I knew the rules, but I didn't really want to obey them. This is what happens. So Stu, what you're saying, I like that idea of not saying test. We're doing a reassessment. Because what happened is I had so many accidents and had so many tickets. They invited me, quote unquote, they invited me to a meeting. So I went to the meeting, and they asked me to hand over my license. And I thought they were just going to look at the license. They took my license and they said, it's ours now. Let's go for a drive, and we're going to determine if you get it back.
Right.
That scared the crap out of me. So, so to your point on assessment, I like that versus testing, meaning it's ours before we can even test. Like, let's say innocence before proven guilty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Tim, your microphone's off.
Oh no! Oh no!
I will say it was definitely effective that they tested me, though. It got the point across.
Yeah.
He was doing so well, Tim.
Hang on. This one's gone off. It must be the battery on it. I guess you can hear me. Anyway, what I was about to say was, when I find the right place to stick this in, take that off of there, stick that in there. If you're caught speeding over here, only a couple of miles over the speed limit, you're does that work now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Tim.
Hang on. Something has definitely gone wrong. I'm going to have to go on to there. That's bizarre.
Tim, your volume's a little quiet, though.
Hang on, I'll have to push that one up.
There you go.
That's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's working, but that's not working. I don't know why that's not working. Oh dear. Yeah, well, I have to worry about it. I have to go back onto this one. So, if you're caught speeding over in this country a couple of miles an hour over the speed limit, you get the opportunity to go and do one of these. It's not a refresher. Speed awareness course, and it saves you getting 3 points on your license, but you still have to pay. But it's like paying double, so you get the fine, but no points, but you have to pay for the course as well.
Yeah.
And if you get that 2 or 3 times, then you lose your license. But when I used to do quite a bit of agency driving when I was driving trucks, and lots of companies where you go into, especially the big supermarket types, insist on you going out for an assessment with one of their drivers. Well, I turned to at one of these places, and this young lad, I mean, he couldn't have been much more than sort of 21, and he was going to assess my driving. So I took him out on the ride of his life. I was throwing the truck around the trailer. If you know Milton Keynes, it's the land of roundabouts, and I've really gone for it with this wagon, and I shot into the yard and straight back on the bay. How did I do? You passed. So funny. Anyway, I think should we move on? Should we move the question on? I saw another one. This is quite an interesting one. This might affect you in Canada as well. When the Queen dies, should the crown go straight to Prince William? Who wants to kick off on that one?
Yeah, you're going to get Mum started now.
There you
go. Before we get too stuck in, folks, I've got to disappear. So I'd just like to say thank you very much, everyone, for your company tonight. I've really enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure meeting you, Stu, as well.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Stuart.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
We'll catch up with you on the flip side.
You know what?
That's Stuart gone. That's one down.
I can't stand Prince Charles or Camilla. but constitutionally, I think it should. But I won't be. Every meal we have, we always go, if we're celebrating the Queen, God bless her, and we do a toast. You know that. But I won't be doing it when it's King Charles. I can tell you that now. I think they would make a better king or queen, and I think they dragged the monarchy into this century a lot better than Charles and Camilla. But I think constitutionally, it needs to be him. But he's old, so that's a good thing.
Well, carry on talking. I'm just having a fiddle if I could get this thing on charge.
I'm of the same opinion as Catherine, that I would rather see Prince William and Kate take over, but constitutional wise, it's got to be our friend. And really, for how long he's been waiting, I think he deserves it. But because of his age, he's not going to be around long, is he?
Well, I don't know. He might do 20 years if he's like his mum.
Yeah, he could do on that. Yeah, I agree on that. But I would rather see Prince William and Kate take over straight away, because they're modern and they would bring the monarchy into the modern world.
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's up to you now, James.
Can I just check that my mic's on?
Yes, you may.
I'm back in the room.
I don't think she should be called Queen, though. Absolutely not. Or even
Camilla. No. Well, she's going to be called Queen Consort, isn't she?
Yeah. Well, I don't agree with that either.
No.
But I can't say. So we'll just skip that.
Yeah.
Jump off your soapbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hit a nerve with that one.
Yeah.
To me, it's
Fair
always
enough.
like this. For me, I look at it going, how could we create a drama reduction program? How could we not have more drama than already is? And I think to some degree, the Queen has handled things reasonably okay. We're from Canada, so we still, the Queen, British and Canada once aligned.
Still the head
British,
of state.
Right, head of state, different things. So of course, most of you will probably know Harry came over to Canada when he left, and so he actually lived real close to where we lived. I think where he lived there for a while, and so I think at the end of the day, I think this whole Diana situation, the boys, her boys, of course, Harry and William, they experienced something, and so there's the Queen trying to manage all of this. And do I say yes to Camilla? You come in the family, or what? So she's handling all these tensions, and I think she actually has a much larger role in society, or even than what we think. Like, and at the end of the day, though, like when it comes to who I think could do a better job, well, I think the son of Charles would do better. At the end of the day, though, constitutionally, like most of you are saying here, there's something that we need to follow. And I think for me, I kind of defer, not 100%, but people who are older than me, I was just taught in life that you give up your chair if they come in, or you open the door for them. And so there's something about ancestral wisdom that I have a fond liking to. Like, I wouldn't say I trust it implicitly, but I wouldn't say I defer 100%. But there's something that Charles knows that that William and Harry don't know, because Charles has lived longer, and so I think there's some mystery there. There's something going on there. The only thing is, if you'd ask me personally, I think the monarchy, the Queen's done a great job, but I'm wondering what's going on in the Queen's mind, because in my mind, the way I see her, and I know somebody who met the Queen. And not meeting and talking for a long time, but who met. And so at the end of the day, it seems to me, even through how the Queen acts and the evidence of what she does, she tries to stay relevant. And I think Charles is just very old school, antiquated. I wonder if the Queen isn't somehow trying to figure out if she lasts, perhaps she won't give up her crown, so that maybe the one that constitutionally is supposed to take it dies off before she does, and she can hand it off. That's my funny play. Sorry.
I think she's aware that there is some bad feeling around Charles and Camilla. she must be aware she's not a stupid woman. And I don't think she would ever step down. She promised to be our queen for her whole life, and I think she will be. And I think she's managing it the best she can for as long as she can. But, you know, Prince Charles has also had some publicity with the weird things he's done, like he's talking to his plants and all sorts of weird things.
Loads of people that talk to
yeah, I don't. But then he has said some really relevant things that have actually happened. And you're right, there's a lot to learn. I mean, Prince William at the moment is learning about the Duchy of Cornwall and how that's all managed. So, and I think the Queen she came to the throne early, and I don't think she would want that for William. I think she would protect him and his family as long as she could from that role. Just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Catherine.
Well, I'm just going to say another quick thank you. Corinne, my daughter, has put a funny in there, a smiley. So we need more people to click the old like button, because I know there's people out there watching us, but this is an interesting point. On YouTube, on Facebook, why do people find it really difficult to click like buttons when they watch something? If they watch something and they like it, what's hard about clicking the like button and maybe just putting a comment on? Because
is it that they're afraid that their algorithm will be tracked?
I don't know what it is.
Maybe they're just stalking you, Tim, and they don't want you to know they're there.
Very
trolls.
Good stalkers then, are they?
Trolls, yeah.
Trolls, yeah. Do you know, we had this conversation the other day in a group that I'm in at the moment about trolls. And I haven't had them. And I feel really hard done by. Don't
open the floodgates to that.
Hold on, I've got my phone.
Yeah. What's this? Funny face accident. That's my eldest daughter. She loves me, really, honest.
Did you hit the like button, Corinne?
No, she hit the funny one instead.
Oh, no.
She meant to do the love button.
Oh.
Tim, excuse me, Tim, just a question. When you're doing live on Facebook and YouTube, does it tell you how many viewers you've got combined, or does it tell you how many viewers you've got on Facebook and how many you've got on YouTube separately?
At the moment, it's difficult to tell. On YouTube at the moment, it says there's 7. There's one on, I'm not sure whether it's Twitter or whether it's LinkedIn. And there's 4 on Facebook.
Oh, so you're getting them. So you've got about.
So getting an idea of numbers that are kind of out there, but when you look back at the algorithm afterwards or the analytics afterwards, last week we had 85 people watching.
Yeah.
And if we got similar sort of numbers tonight, there's a huge amount of people out there that aren't clicking the like button.
Yeah. And as you say, it's free. It don't cost anything.
Tim,
sorry, James.
No, sorry. I cut you off. Sorry.
No, go on. I don't mind.
Yeah. No, you first. I got time.
I was just saying the like button is free. Don't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. And when you've got a channel like Tim's, who goes into deep conversational things, none of us are going to agree, but it's interesting to get other people's points of view. So, it's got to be a likable stream, because I've found this. I mean, I've been in many streams where there's just been chit chat amongst the guests, but there's been some very constructive questions asked, and we've had some great opinions because we're all individuals. So this stream is up there at the top.
What I was going to say.
Thanks very much for that.
What I was going to say, Tim, is, and this is just poking at all of us, perhaps, but maybe people aren't doing thumbs up because they're actually just questioning if they like this. and you know, the funny thing about it, it's a little like, so then we can all decide that we're going to start performing and dancing. But I'm not going to do that because I'm just who I am. And if this isn't good enough, then I guess it's not good enough.
Well, you can't please everyone.
Right.
Yeah, but if I like a video or I like a stream, because it don't cost anything, I always press the like button. If I dislike it, I press the dislike button because that is my opinion, and that's it. You know, the only thing I don't do, because I'm a pensioner, I can't afford to buy people a coffee.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm not forcing anybody to buy me a coffee, but if they would like to buy me a coffee, where's my coffee button? Hang on. I'll put a coffee button in there. Look, hey, buy me a coffee.
Yeah, you're right there, Nick.
It's only a few pence.
Hold on,
Yeah.
It's not one of the main chains of coffee, is it? Because they're not a few pence.
There you go. I mean, that might be a reason that people are lazy, but it's I mean, it's slightly moving the hand, isn't it? And click.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? A little while ago, Twitter announced, I don't know where they're really at now because I'm not really on Twitter, but they announced that they were going to be, I think it was Twitter, they're going to remove the dislike button. The only button you had was like button.
Yeah,
I'm like, whoa, you're removing human choice. This is not wise. To some degree, I think, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this one, but I think we become so energized towards being, we're good, right? We're good, right? And it's like, oh, just shut up. Like, just shut up. Who cares? Like, I don't want to say it in an unhelpful way, but it's like, you know what? Let's just relax, right? But I totally get it. If you want my opinion, the reason that I don't do it all the time, even though people ask for or they invite me to it, is I don't want my algorithm to be tracked. I don't want to receive an email from someone. I don't, you know what I mean? I want to do this when I want to do it. So that would be my reason. So,
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, does that happen? I don't know how these things actually work. I mean, does clicking a like button then generate an algorithm that then will ping you some spam?
I think it does.
Or...
Even like your phone's listening to you. We was laughing about Dad putting some copper pipes in the trees to kill them. And then a couple of days later, on my Facebook, an Amazon advert came up with copper nails to kill trees.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, to that point, I was listening to a talk a little while ago, and this individual was talking about anything that's free, don't kid yourself, it's not.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm tapping in right now and it's free. Guess what? So it's free, I'm tapping it, but they're finding a way to maximize and monetize the situation. You know what I mean? So my only story is why is it when on a Saturday, my wife and I are just going for a drive, all of a sudden my phone pops up and says, you're 15 minutes away from the local shoe store.
Yeah.
What? Because I'm going to go buy my wife shoes again? I know I do a lot, but I mean, again?
See, nothing is free. Your wife's let them know that.
Right?
She's going to take you to the shoe shop every Saturday.
Yeah.
But
somebody's buying me a coffee. Look, somebody's buying me a coffee. I'm going to go and meet Nick tomorrow to get a coffee. I'm going to take him up on that as well.
My wife took me to the Harry Potter. What was the experience called? The woods thing. My mind's
with
gone.
all the lights in November, Enchanted Forest.
Enchanted Forest, and obviously I had no idea because it was a surprise. But because Anne had been doing stuff on the Wi-Fi that we share, I kept on getting notifications, and my mum kept on getting notifications about this Enchanted Forest experience, and I was like, oh wow, that looks really cool. And then when I just sort of was like, oh well, where is that then? It can't be anywhere around here. And then when we was going out for a drive while we was away for my birthday, I was like, oh, I bet we're going to the Enchanted Forest because it's round here.
And you ended up at the Enchanted Forest, did you?
Yeah. Oh, you know me. I love a bit of Harry Potter.
Oh, don't we all? I got my wand out last week. So we're looking for another question, aren't we? So what sort of anybody got a question they want to ask? One of the panel maybe. Want to start a conversation?
Well, I was watching the telly today because I'm not at work. You know, daytime tellies can be dire. But there's a programme on there during the day called Slum Landlords and Nightmare Tenants. I don't rent property out to anybody, but I'm now feeling really, really sorry for people who do. When people don't pay their rent and then trash the place and leave, and there doesn't seem to be any recourse ever to get their money back or to trace them. Why isn't there some register that people have to go on with their national insurance number or something? So if these people trash the place and run off, they can be traced and made to pay. I was getting quite incensed about it today when I was watching this programme. I need to go back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on that. There should be some form of identification when you rent a property, because even in this area where I live, a lot of people do trash the places that they rent. Not everybody, but a lot of people seem to get a lot of issues with people now renting properties, especially the young ones. So if you add an ID such as your national insurance number, they can be tracing. But even then, if they're traced, can they get any money out? If they haven't got any money, that's the problem, isn't it?
It is, but I would even make them pay £1 a week for life, because what you quite often, according to this programme, find that people do it habitually. They'll go from one place to another and another. There was a man on there the other day, and he knew for a fact that they'd done it to 2 other landlords before him.
Yeah.
It's wrong. I don't even rent anywhere else. I was getting really incensed by it.
Yeah.
I have current rental properties, and the one thing that I can attest to is people have a standard of how they end things. And one of the things that I do as a landlord is, I'm not really, I hired this out to other people, but there's one house I'm managing now. The rest I let other people manage. The one thing that we do is we ask them about scenarios in life, and then we say, and how did that work for you? And so sooner or later, when you interview people, you're going to hear how they end things, or if they're angry people. But one of the things, and the reason I share, everybody has a way of ending. Some people have to end things badly for them to move on. So they decide, for me to cut loose of this, the reason I'm moving out of this because I'm angry, or whatever it is. Or they might go, I'm happy with the landlord, but I always, in order for me to feel justified that I'm moving, I have to end things badly. So there is a setup. There is a way that people tend to, and it's pattern, what we've discovered. And so there's a certain protocol that they will follow. They'll either yell at you or they'll do something because they're trying to break away. So it's actually, in some degree, it's healthy. They're trying to break away because they're saying, I'm not renting for you anymore. It's okay. The only thing is, if it affects the relation, now it's not helpful. But most people don't think like this, right? So
Would hope so. I mean, most of these, it ended badly because they'd had some sort of financial trouble that they hadn't told the landlord about. Hence, one lady had £16,000 in back rent, and so in come the bailiffs to remove her, and out came all the Gucci shoes. And you're thinking, yeah, you can afford those shoes because you haven't paid all this money in rent.
Was this the lady that was part of the BBC and she asked to be blurred out? Yeah.
She was a producer or something. She said, don't show my face. You know, that's well, even so, at the bottom of the garden we've got council flats, and some people got evicted, didn't they, about last year, the year before?
The year before.
And when they went, they wrecked it before they went. So they smashed up all the kitchen, they smashed up all the bathroom, and there wasn't one door left in that flat. And why should people get away with that? If they can't pay it, make them work to pay it off. That's what I'd do.
my other perspective is, so the renter that I currently manage, this one that I manage, he's a very interesting fella. Life has done him hard by. He doesn't let me call him brother or anything. I can't address him by hello. He just wants to keep it very professional. He's a rougher kind of guy. He works at a machine shop. And the only thing is, I could have evicted him because of some of his behavior, but I'm not because I'm afraid not, or afraid to. I actually, to some degree, want to learn how to work with him. Because, and I'm just going to hold people who own property, for example, and rent out. I want to hold us to the standard of, listen, what we see in other people, that's showing us how society is built. And so it invites me, for example, like my example, it invites me, how can I work with him and build relationship with him? It's very difficult, like the deck was broken, the outside deck was broken, and we were going to fix it. We had everything, the plywood sheets taken out, new plywood put in, and then we're going to go get new floor covering to put over top on exterior. Our guys came back, and he had taken a steel or wood rod, and he'd rammed it through 3 new areas of the deck that weren't broken, but he just busted. And so it's a little bit like, this is the anger that he has. And so I don't know, for me, I don't want to distance myself too much from real people's emotion. Like I kind of want to feel what they feel, and I don't want to make excuse for them. But to some degree, what they're showing us is the undertow of society. We have these strains. I don't want to get too deep into it, but we have these strains, and I want to stay with understanding, because that to me is humility, right? Because I can be an ass sometimes too, I'm sure. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I think, sorry.
No,
I don't think that, like, it's not possible all the time. Like we was talking about, there was 3 different flats at the bottom of the garden that caused our estate masses of trouble and antisocial behaviour for months and months on end. Now, I went down to speak to them. My wife went down to speak to them. Dad went to speak to them.
I just screamed at them.
Yeah, Mum just screamed at them. But
that worked.
trying to come to sort of some resolution. They were shouting and swearing and playing music all hours of the day and night. Drugs, drink, and they just didn't care. It was that loud that it was affecting the whole estate.
Well, and it doesn't help we all start earning morning, does it?
I have to get up at 2:45 in the morning, and it was a really hot summer. I couldn't sleep with the windows open, even with the windows shut and earplugs in. It still sounded like I was trying to sleep next to a speaker. And unfortunately, there is a small percentage of society that just don't give a crap about anyone else, and they're just going to do whatever they want to do, even when you, like you say, try and have a bit of humility and try and speak to people and understand. We tried to do that, and they just point blank refused to even.
Yeah, I sort of reached breaking point where I was losing my temper, and once I get to that point, there's no going back, and there was no way at that point that was ever going to be resolved. But yeah, it wasn't just us. It literally, there were, what is it? How many flats are down there? I don't know, 18? One guy's,
more than that.
Is there?
Yeah.
One guy's lived there as long as, longer than us. He'd been there, he'd been in his flat over 40 years. And he got threatened with violence. So his wife was so frightened she wouldn't leave the house. And they moved out. So because of these antisocial people in the flat, he ended up leaving his home of 40 odd years. That's not right.
No, I think that there's an awful lot of these undesirables that have gone for generations where they've never worked, and they've only ever lived on benefits, and they just go from one place to another, trash it, and move on. But it's the taxpayers that picks up the bill all the time, or the individual that's been kind enough to let out their property, and it just goes on and on and on. But there are generations of people that are like it.
Well,
and
none
it's
of
just
them
the way
were.
that they've been, just the way they've been dragged up.
This is why they could sit up all night drinking and smoking, whatever it was they were smoking, because They didn't have to get up in the morning like we did. Didn't matter. They'd sleep till lunchtime. But there were children in those flats. Other people had children.
Well, even they had children.
Well, they had children, yeah, but they didn't seem to care about the children.
I came back at like 2 in the morning, and I could hear. I drove up.
Can you hear, Anne?
Only just.
Come over here. We're gonna call in Anne. Oh, quick! Oh no, we're nearly knocked out.
Kicking the phone over. What do you like?
We're squeezing Annie. Squeezing Annie.
You know,
We'll go in with a new question in a minute.
I
Tell your
think
story quick.
Just talking about the flats really, just having a moan.
This way.
I drove back from work one night. It's like 2 in the morning, and I had, bearing in mind I had my radio on, and the engine was obviously on, and I came around the corner, and all I could hear was this thumping music, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" I drove up on the driveway. I got out, and it was these flats at the back, and like, this was at 2 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely ridiculous. There was no telling them. Like, you try and have a decent conversation. You'd say, "Look, I'm not being funny. We're up for work at this time, whatever," and they just didn't give a shit.
Tell you to F off.
Just not on, is it? Anyway, let's change the subject. We've got another question. This one's going to provoke some discussion, I'm sure. There you go. There's the question. Is green energy really green?
No.
Well, let's just throw a little bit of context on this one.
It's not.
Your energy bill, every one of us is paying 25% of our energy bill. We're paying towards the green levy. Is that right?
No, because it's not technically green, is it? I mean, look at those diesel generators that were
charging up the electric
charging
cars.
up electric cars. How can it be green if you use the diesel generator?
But even electric cars
Where was that?
that are getting electricity, what's producing that electricity?
Yeah.
Unless it's hydroelectric power or solar power or wind power, then it's not green, is it?
No.
Not that I know a lot about it.
It's a subject that I don't know a lot about, but where I live, they make the turbines for the wind turbines out in the North Sea, and you look at how many there is in this country now, and yet we are still not producing enough green energy to sustain us. And the thing that gets me is, look how many houses are built and how many houses there are about, and very few have got solar panels on. And I had this conversation the other day with somebody, and it's as they said, if you've got solar panels on your roof, you will also need a wind turbine, because solar panels in the winter only are about 5% efficient. So if you've got a wind turbine there as well, you are going to produce green energy. But this is it. Why can't we produce our own green energy as individuals? You know, if you live in a house and it's yours, you pay what are the costs now? I think about £5,000. But I was reading today about a German company that has produced solar panel type of things that go on the window, because they're more effective. They're about 25% more effective than solar panels on roofs. So,
you know what, Keith, you bring about a very interesting point. Because I think if we're not careful, we focus around ideals and ideologies instead of taking personal action. I think personally, to protect the environment, it's great. But I think if we wrap around some corporate, like, we need to do this, here's my play. I look at this in a specific way. Do I like Teslas? I love Teslas. I love them. I really like them. The only thing is this. I ask myself the question. So on the point I said earlier, I'm all about not creating drama in my life. So I'm on drama reduction programs everywhere. That's what I'm about. When it comes to drama reduction, when it comes to friends, I'm on a drama reduction program. I didn't get to be this old to stay stupid, so I'm not doing this. So when I think about green energy, I think the concept is lovely, like awesome. But I think we've got a long way to go before we go there. If I think about a Tesla that would run me $100,000 to buy, I can buy that same car with the same options, with similar reliability for 60 to 70,000. So now here's my question. So for the extra 30 or 40,000 I'm spending for the Tesla, ask yourself, where am I going to have to be to make that money? For the average person, I mean, I get to work from home, but for the average person, they're going to have to leave the house or whatever. They have to go work. And when I think about drama, I think we're just creating more of a hamster wheel, like work harder, work harder. I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not buying a Tesla. Though I love it, I'm not buying one because it doesn't check out for me.
Well, my car had to go in for a service, and it was going to be in for the day. So I organised to have a BMW, what was it, an iX3. It was the all-electric BMW i3. And I had that for the day. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Could I afford one? Not on my pension. But I also, the time before, I had a BMW. It was a hybrid, and I was totally unimpressed with it, I think is the best way of putting it. I had it on charge. It cost me, I think, about £3, to charge it up overnight. On a full charge, I managed to get 21 miles out of it.
No.
without having to use the engine. The electric lasted 21 miles. It was a hybrid.
Yeah.
And I took it back and we had a chat. We sat down and had a chat with the salesman, and he said, "Well, that's what they are. I mean, it's a hybrid. I mean, you work on it's good for the fuel consumption, but that's not what I expected out of a hybrid. I expected it to be able to run sort of at least 50, 100 miles just on the electric. But no, it was underwhelming, shall we say. I mean, it was a nice car and all the rest of it, but it's directed at the corporate market for the tax dodge, for going green.
If Steve,
and on the green stuff, 25% of your fuel bill is going on this stupid green levy for stuff that doesn't really work. I mean, the hustings going on at the moment. Whoever's going to get in, they're saying that they're going to suspend the green levy for a year or whatever. They should scrap it, because unless they're going to go down a nuclear route, we ain't got green energy. You can't rely on solar. I mean, I've got solar panels on the house. We've got 4 kilowatt of solar panels. The best I'll get out of it is probably about 3.5 kilowatts on a really good day. Probably get a fiver back through dumping it into the grid. On a cloudy day, they're not overly efficient. I mean, these ones are designed for the UK. These are specifically designed for the UK climate, so they are working at the most efficient. But they cost us £10,000.
Yeah, I think if we're trying to locate a new fuel source so that we can consume more, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
If we're creating a fuel source so we can just be more gluttonous with our behavior and leave more lights on, come on. If it's designed so we can consume more, I think that's at the undertow of my concern. If it's just designed for me to help to consume more, I'm not interested.
I mean, there's a cost to everything, isn't there? And if Stephen was here, he would be banging on about the batteries. And, you know, the cost there is the people who are mining the stuff that go in the batteries. The dust is all over the place. The kids aren't healthy. Children are being born with deformities. They're putting it all down to the mining of whatever is in the batteries. Lithium, I don't know. I've heard him go on about it so many times. I should have listened, actually. I might have been more informative. But, you know, that was his thing. There is always a cost to something. And, you know, it's lovely and green, unless you go to the place where it's being produced and they're all dying because they're all polluted by the stuff. Somewhere there is a cost to it. But you know what? We're an island. We're surrounded by sea. We have waves. Why aren't we harnessing the power of the waves?
Yeah, I mean, James has made a fairly good point here. But yes, they are looking at wave power, and they're looking at wave power up the 7 bore. So I mean, the 7 bore, they're putting some wave machines out there, and it's I guess it's one of those emerging technologies that's being paid for by the Green Levy. And I guess that's a little bit more sustainable than wind power. I mean, look at last year, September, there was no wind, so the wind farms just weren't producing anything. On a cloudy day, the solar farms aren't producing anything. But James is making a really good point here about electric cars and batteries, these lithium batteries. Have you seen the amount of electric cars that are bursting into flames? They're really, really dangerous. We've got some other stuff going on here.
I think the other point James made is we shouldn't be thinking, we need to produce all this extra power so we can carry on using power the way we have been. But she says after having turned the lights out because it just went back in here. We do need to be a little more aware, I think, of just, what we're using.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to Tim's for the winter. Instead of going abroad, I'll go to Tim's and use his heating system. No, I think what I'm going to do this winter is put a dressing gown on, put the TV on in the bedroom, and sit up in bed all the time because I'm retired. I can do that. During the day, I can go visiting.
But do you know what? People shouldn't have to
use other people's electric and gas.
Yeah, go visit.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, let them make the coffee and the tea.
It's wrong, though. As I say, I've been listening to daytime telly every day, and Jeremy Vine had a phone in the other day, and everybody was phoning up saying they are so worried about their heating, they don't want to turn it on. They're going to wrap themselves up in blankets, get an electric blanket. People are frightened to put their ovens on to cook. That's not right.
Right.
And apart from that, we don't pay our pensioners enough. Our pensioners are the worst paid pensioners in the world. Certainly in the Western world. That's ridiculous. They work all their life.
Yeah.
They should get an amount that they can live on. Forget the cost of living, even before that.
You know what's interesting about this conversation? You're talking about turning the oven on and different things. What's fascinating is, so most of us have a automatic washer. Who doesn't have an automatic washer in their house? Dryer, you have it in your house. And so it's interesting because innovation claims, oh, look, we have a washer. Like, we invented that you can now wash your clothes. That's rubbish. We've washed our clothes since the beginning of time. Since we had clothes, we went to the river and washed our clothes.
Yeah.
And then after the river, we brought a board down to the river and we scrubbed them on the board, on the rocks. We've been doing this forever. And so this is my personal take, but if I live under the pretense that life owes me nothing and everything is a gift, and so it's a bit like this, and I hear where you're coming from, Catherine, because your scenario is a little different. Like, I'm 46. You might be 47. I don't know. Sorry, right? I just don't know. But as you get older, you're right. You don't want to walk down to the river anymore because that's too much work. Like and you might not be able to eventually, right? That makes sense. I totally get it. But I think if we would get a little bit less anxious about current happenings for most people, it's like, oh well, we can't do this. Oh, well, then what do we have? I have a couple blankets. Okay. But I think the problem is if we're afraid of the fear, that's the problem. We got to dance with our fear, but not be afraid of the fear because, I don't know, Tim, you can probably share a story or two, many. But if you go into battle, if you're afraid of your fear, you're done. You're done. It's over.
Well, it really comes down to training in the army. They say you train hard, fight easy. I mean, I can kind of relate to that. I mean, train hard, fight even harder, actually. So certainly the last battle I was in, it was bloody scary, and yeah, how we got away with it, how we didn't have anybody killed on that day, I just don't know. But it was probably one of the toughest days of my life ever. We were in contact with the Taliban for about 9 hours. We didn't have. We'd lost comms this particular day, and from one thing or another, the aircraft or the Chinook that dropped us off was coming back several hours late because we were doing some work in this particular village. It's a bit of a long story, but that day, I mean, I got off of that helicopter carrying 42 kilos of kit. I mean, ammunition and water, basically. And not a lot else. We were down to sort of a few rounds a man. The time the helicopter came in, the fast air came and dropped a couple of 500-pounders on them. But we were struggling all day. Every time we relocated, we extracted, they would come round from a different direction. We were having a nightmare of a day. But you didn't have time to worry about it. It was only really, really, really sort of scary thinking about it afterwards, if that makes sense. While you're in it, you're in there. Your training kicks in, and you're doing what you're trained to do. It's only afterwards that you think, "Ooh, did we come through that?" Well, that's scary. But yeah. From that point of view, I've lost the plot. Where was I going with it?
Unfortunately, these people sitting at home who don't have enough in their cupboards to feed their children and are living in food banks, they haven't been trained for that.
No.
There is nothing that can prepare you for that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that abuse the system with the food banks, because I know someone personally who's never worked, and he goes to 5 different food banks, one a day, and he can smoke, so that costs him £10 a day, over £10 a day. He goes out drinking every day, and they're the type of people that really annoy me because they are abusing the system.
Yeah.
That's your habitual. I mean, he's probably his parents were the same. They probably never worked, so he's got that from his parents, and all they've ever done is claim off the state, and that's probably where he's got it from, and these people earn a living at it.
Yeah, and I know I used to be a debt collector when I was young, working for Shopper Check, and the number of people that I used to go round, knock on the door on estates, council estates, and oh, you've got a TV off such and such, you know, and you haven't been paying it. How much can you offer me? Oh, can't offer you anything. And at that time of life, I was only young. I was only, 16, 17. It was my first job. And I also used to do a sweet round, selling pick and mix from a pram that I'd converted. And as soon as I said, oh, I've got some sweets here, 25p a bag, they used to come out and spend 10 quid with me. But they wouldn't pay the debt.
You know, the sad thing when I hear some of this, the sad thing for me is that what we see as someone else's problem is their solution, because the human never acts out their problem. The human doesn't have ability to, because the human is always fighting for survival. The human always thinks the way the human is acting is its solution. Like my father-in-law is an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic, not a friendly one, a raging one. I would observe him and I'd say, that's your problem. Look at the bullshit it's creating in your life. Yeah. Look at the bullshit it's creating in your life. But the only reason he drinks, because that's a solution. That's how he deals with his trauma and his misery.
Yeah.
So it's like someone who steals, we see it as his problem, but the sad thing is that's his solution. And so there is a way that through empathy, and it goes both ways. Don't get me wrong. There's extreme situations. What we're talking about here, people playing music way too loud, whatever. If invariably the police have to get involved or something. If there's disregard for human, something's going to happen. The only thing is, I had a little story last weekend. I did a grocery run, so buying groceries for my family. And I parked at the local grocer. It's a big store. Here in America, we call it Costco. I don't know if you know about Costco.
Yeah.
So I park at Costco, and just before I park, when I pull into the parking lot, there's this lady who's begging at the four-way stop. It's a busy intersection, but she's begging right there. And she says, I need food for my children. She's a younger lady, 32 years old, or I don't know, 28. I need food for my children. And I had an extra $5 bill in my wallet. I don't normally carry cash, but I keep money just in case I see people who, and I was taught when I was home, I don't know if my parents intentionally taught me this, but when you part with money, ask where it's going. Like if you think it's going to go to a drug hit or alcohol, then don't give it because you're supporting their habit. But I've reframed myself and I do different now. I don't ask, am I supporting what I would think as being a beneficial solution for me to them? I look at it going, if somebody asked me, like the other day we were in Seattle and this person asked for money, I could see they're high as a kite and asking for money. In the past, I would be like, no, I'm not giving. I'm not supporting that. The only thing is, so back to this little, and I'll shorten a little story, but my dad is a pastor of a mega church. And so you can come to the church, for example, and I'm an amateur there. I still have faith, but it's different now. But you can come to the church because you're looking for relief. How many people walk out of church wanting to be responsible? I'm not sure. I don't know. The only thing that I happen to know is that what saves people's lives is if they need relief, whether they're veterans, whoever, stressed. Maybe the first place you go for relief is the bar. After the bar, you might go to the church because you're sick of paying for the tab for all your buddies at the bar the last night. And so you go to the church and now you put the extra money in the offering bucket. I don't know. I have no idea. The only thing that I happen that in my opinion is the sad thing is I think we have to be so careful. This is my view, but so careful not to take what we see as their problem and now look at them and go, I can't believe this is happening. Because that lady I gave $5 to, a gentleman walks over, or he parked right beside me, and he says, that's kind of weird, he says, that lady is begging for money right in the intersection. And I said, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to stir any feathers. But then I said, well, I guess, the only thing is, what's she supposed to do if she has children? I don't know. And here's the sad part of all of it. I was just trying to have him relate to it, because what I've realized is most people can't connect to anything if they can't comprehend it. And all I know is if you can't find a way to connect with something beyond comprehension, you're screwed. Because society reveals stuff that we don't understand. And we have to find a way of connecting with what we do, in my opinion. But that's just me. Yeah. I don't know what you gentlemen or what you people think.
What did that man say to you under the bridge? The one who lived
Well, I want to put a question out there. This will be the final question. We've only got a few minutes left of the show, and Nick's put a comment on there. Once again, thanks. A great evening, a great show. Can I ask the people out there watching, what do you think about the format that I've done tonight, where I'm swapping people in, so the person that's talking's in the big screen? Do you like that, or do you prefer it back like this, where we just sort of having a conversation around what we're doing? Don't know.
Well, in my opinion, Tim, the format that you used tonight is a lot more interesting, because the person who's doing the talking and putting his opinions over, is taking centre stage. The others are listening. So, yeah, this format, and I like the way you put the questions up this time. I think that the only thing is your Tim Heale avatar should be put over the other side when you've got the people down the side that you have. Yeah, because you can move the avatar. But I think your Tim Heale avatar that you have on, you can move it. Yeah,
Well,
you could move
that
yeah,
one there.
Yeah, you could move
It doesn't move.
over. Oh, I thought it did.
No,
Oh.
no,
Oh,
no.
so-
It's a fixed position. It's like
Oh.
the StreamYard duck. That's the only problem with it.
Yeah.
At the moment, you can't move it. I
Well-
could put it on the overlay, but then it's stuck
Yeah,
on
well,
the
that's,
overlay.
it don't mean anything. But the format that you've used tonight, I think it's been a lot more interesting than what you used last week and on your other streams. I don't know what you think, Stephanie and Catherine.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Then you know who's talking. It doesn't sort of get lost in what's going on the screen.
Yeah.
What's your
Well-
thoughts, James?
Yeah, I personally, I mean, I don't ever really enjoy seeing myself on the big screen. I'll be honest. I don't care about. So on that regard, I mean, I totally get it. But if I think about from a observer and from a listener, I do think, like, when I do podcasts and when the speaker talks, I tend to, when I remember, let it be in speaker mode, so the speaker gets. Because I want people to really focus on what's happening. And so the body communicates, words only communicate 6%. I want the whole communication to flow across, right? So,
Yeah. So back to you, Tim.
Oh, back to me, is it? Back to me.
You never.
Well, Nick agrees with us anyway.
Yeah, oops. See, I'm missing it again, look. So, yeah, I agree with Keith. And, yes, format is better. Thank you. So, I mean, that's one good thing, because we can see that there's people still out there watching, although they're not clicking the like button. They're still out there watching, which is great. I mean, tonight was, for me, it's hard work. I mean, I'm the old minds, the wheels are going like 10 to a dozen. The little legs are going underneath. I'm looking calm and serene on the top. But it's good because it's easy to do, and I love this platform that we're working off, StreamYard. I'd just like to give a big shout out to StreamYard for this platform, because ease of use. I've tried some others. I've tried Ecamm, which is give me a headache. But this is so easy and intuitive, and they're bringing new things along to it all the time. But I'd just like to say a massive big thank you to you guys that have come and joined me this evening and partake with the conversation. Because without you, it's just me, and if it's just me, I'll waffle on all night long. I mean, I can talk for England. And I think I've proved that time and time again. So, but it's so much more fun when I've got guests in that we're just having a great chat and conversation, and it's brilliant that we've got people at home that are. See, this is where my brain's trying to work. My dyslexia doesn't help either. But it's great that people at home are contributing to the show, and I think these particularly the Q&A shows that we're doing, the open forums, we never know what's coming. Absolutely, have got no idea what the questions are going to be. I've got some backup questions, obviously, because I do my preparation before the show. But what I like to do is engage the audience that's watching, and if you guys like what we're doing, and if you want to come on the show, just ping me a message, and I'll give you the link, and you can come in the show and join in the fun and games. So I'm just going to wind the show up because we've only got 5 minutes left, which is going to take me there to close the show down, because I've got to do a little announcements on the way out. So let's give yourself one of those. It is
Sound
infectious. It is infectious. So I'm just going to thank each and every one of you, and I'm just going to play you out. So, in reverse order then. So, who's in first? James. James, thank you so much for joining in. If you want to hang around after for a quick wash up before we finally say good night, after I'll close the show, you're welcome to hang on. So, James, thank you so much for joining and being a great part.
Bye, James.
It was an honor.
Oh, thanks. So, Keith, thanks again, mate. I'll catch up with you in a minute.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a pleasure tonight. I've enjoyed the discussions. The only thing I regret is I didn't win me bet with me mate because you didn't muck up at the start. Well, look at that. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thanks, Keith. Well, ladies, it's just the four of us left then. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Stephanie, Catherine, and Anne. It's been a delight again having you on, and I'll see you next week.
See you next week.
I think we're prepared for it. I think we're there. So I don't know how many of the guys are going to turn to. We'll have a quick chat after about one thing and another. Anyway, thank you, darlings.
Later. Bye.
Well, thanks. It's been another brilliant evening. Let me just right recap. Quick recap. Oh, hang on. It's all going wrong. What have I done? Hang on, that one. Thanks, Richard. See, starting to lose it right at the end. Oh no, clicking all the wrong buttons at the moment. Right, so we've come live from the Heale Manor tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the show. So I'm just going to have a quick recap. Next week, health and suicide special, men's health and suicide special. Hopefully I've got some more guests coming in, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to look at destigmatising men's health and suicide, and just to say that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to talk. So that's coming next week. The week after, hopefully Richard's going to come in, and he's going to help us out with some rugby players from the Saints with a bit of luck, and we'll have a great conversation about the regiment and why we do the rugby for the regimental rugby, and look at the Premiership season that's just about to start, and hope for our teams. The following week, archaeological special. That's going to be a fascinating evening. I've got some experts coming on, and hopefully you guys are going to join and ask your questions. The following 2 weeks, the 15th and the 22nd, they're going to be pre-recorded shows. And when they come out, you'll see why I've pre-recorded them, because you'll see anyway. And then the last one at the end of September is going to be a Veterans Mental Health Special, and we're going to try and focus in on suicide and why it's happening, and why we're losing so many veterans to this terrible thing. So please stick a date in your diary. There's nothing else on the telly on a Thursday evening, so you might as well sit and watch us having fun, discussing really taboo subjects, going deep in, and hopefully you're getting some benefit out of it. You're seeing the benefits of what we're doing. The fact that we're destigmatising these taboo subjects. So from my deepest heart, thank you everybody again for watching. If you want to be part of the show, just ping me a message and I'll give you the link and you can come in on these shows. If you just want to watch, just watch. If you want to, please try and click that like button and subscribe to the channel. That would be great. So for the time being, I'd just like to thank everybody who's contributed and watched this evening. So I'm out of the room. I'm back in the room. I meant to do that one and then do that one. So good night, everybody.